Enter at your own peril and ask the bolted doors where impossible things may happen that the world's never seen before. Hello, everybody, and welcome to my review of One Piece Chapter 1067, titled Punk Records, or as I like to call it, Vegamind. All right. Just to let everybody know, and because the algorithm likes it, remember to subscribe to the Afro channel. Make sure to hit that bell icon and select all so you can get all of the videos that I do. Also, we have a Patreon. You can find that at www.patreon.com/AfroX. We have a Facebook page that is called AfroX. We have a Twitter called @TheRealAfroX, even though Twitter is dying. And we have a TikTok called AfroX_YT. So check out all of that stuff. Hold on just a minute. I'm going to set my phone on Do Not Disturb. And we are going to hop right into the chapter. All right. So, One Piece Chapter 1067, titled Punk Records. We start off in the cover page. Caesar has just gotten to the Germa 66's floating island ship castle thing. And he is facing off with Judge. So we have Judge versus Caesar with looks like Ichiji and Niji standing in the background. In the notes from Oda, it says, so you can listen to the film read SBS by using an app called Secondary Audio Screening at any theater. I rejected it as a Blu-ray special feature. Lol. So he must have thought the audio version was a Blu-ray special feature. Anyways, getting into the chapter, Juribani immediately says, hey, what happened to your head? It used to be massive like a light bulb. And Vegapunk says, it was getting a tad too long, so I cut it. So yeah, Vegapunk cut out his brain, and we're gonna pick this apart little by little here. Hey, we got our most dedicated fan right here in the chat. This is Trix the Anime Hater. Howdy, Trix. Good to see you. If you're having your lunch break, hope you're having a wonderful lunch break. Anyways, so Vegapunk explains that he ate the Nomi Nomi No Mi, and I'm sure Oda had the greatest time planning this out. Because he actually gets tongue-tied the first time he says it because of how difficult it would be for someone with their tongue continuously hanging out to say "no me, no me, no me." And I'm sure Oda just had a great time in planning for him to get the brain fruit. Like, I feel like Vegapunk is like Oda's like love child. Like Vegapunk is Vegapunk might be Oda's favorite character in the entire series. But so yeah, Vegapunk goes on to explain that he is a brainy human, or in another translation, they call him a brainiac human. And he ate the brain fruit, and he says it allows me to memorize an unlimited amount of knowledge and makes my brain grow in size accordingly. So, pretty much in essence, like Vegapunk's brain, Vegapunk's brain, it grows differently than a regular brain. It grows in the way that a brain would grow if it was not inside our hard skulls. Because so, like, of course, as you gain more knowledge and stuff, there more neurons and stuff inside your brain grows. But due to having like a hard skull pushing up against it, a normal brain starts to curl in on itself. And that is why we have like all the grooves in our brain and stuff like that. How Vegapunk's brain seems to grow is as he gains more knowledge, it literally grows vertically. Um, and so due to the properties of the devil fruit, which is interesting that it kind of made his part of his body like rubber, his head also grew to accommodate to the size of his brain. Yeah, so his pretty much what he said is his brain has got too big, and he had to cut it off. And he says, now I have the largest brain in the world, and it continues to grow. And it's interesting because at this point, Chopper says, that's awesome. Have you got tons of medical knowledge too, Dr. Vegapunk? But in another translation, it's Chopper says, are you Chopper asks him if him being smart also means that he's strong in research. And Vegapunk says absolutely, naturally. So this is interesting because we thought that Frankie would be super like impressed with Dr. Vegapunk, but it honestly seems like Chopper is getting the most satisfaction out of meeting Vegapunk here. So Luffy's like, hey, does that mean you're dumb now because you cut your brain out? Which might sound like a dumb question, but honestly, anybody looking from Luffy's perspective would honestly like assume that. Like, after we first saw I should just start calling him old Vegapunk. After we first saw old Vegapunk, I thought that he would be dumb also. Especially because of the apple on his head. So he explains, no, absolutely not. And he says that this apple on his head, it's an antenna that connects to Punk Records. That the big egg that you see that is the egg of Egghead Island is a hanger for Dr. Vegapunk's brain. So he can put it in there, and as he gains more information, it continues to grow. And so his brain fruit can like pretty much blossom in there, and so his brain just continues to grow inside of Punk Records. Um, and so he explains kind of stuff that we already know, that the other robots are clones. Um, and each one is a part of himself. And but he explains that each of them connects to punk records every day, so that all of them, all technically 7 Vegapunks now, can synchronize their memories and knowledge. And so he's saying, since there's like a ton of me, the experience, since there's like a ton of me, the experience that I get is and knowledge is so much more. And so, really, if you think about it, not only old Vegapunk, but all of the Vegapunks have collectively all of the knowledge that is stored in punk records. And so, they have all the knowledge and memories. And so, really, none of them were lying when they said they were Vegapunk, because each one of these bodies is technically Vegapunk. Um, which is absolutely mind blowing. And Jinbei says something to that effect. He said, "I find it difficult to wrap my head around that they all share the same brain." Um, so Vegapunk says, "Just think of it as sharing the same library." Um, and then he says, "If only I could let everyone in the world connect to my brain, all of humanity would have access to my knowledge." Um, and he says then people could put in their knowledge, and it would eventually become a vast sea of knowledge. And Chopper just is amazed by this and says, "So I'd be able to study medicine from all over the world?" And Vegapunk says, "Naturally," or "naturally." It's an old man voice. Anyways, um, he says humanity can share one mind. So pretty much, Vegapunk's big dream is that he wants all of humanity to share one mind, or to become a hive mind under his brain. Um, and so Jinbei says, wouldn't all their conflicting ideologies, wouldn't that bias lead to trouble? And Vegapunk says, well, he pretty much says, well, science and progress is important, so I never really think about the emotional stuff, or he pretty much says, I don't care what people believe, because facts are all that matters. And this is when Jewelry Bonnie steps up. Um, and she's like, "That's your problem, Vegapunk. You sure off sacrifices in the name of progress. That's why my dad's been turned into a heartless weapon." She goes to attack Vegapunk with the beam saber, and he says, "Don't do that. It's defective." And she's like, "Shut up. It cuts absolutely well. I tested it earlier." And he's like, "No, it attracts a ludicrous number of bugs." At which point, a bunch of bugs, which appear to be a mixture of stag beetles and bees, come to attack Bonnie. Um, so Bonnie gets knocked unconscious, kind of like Perona when Perona was attacked by the cockroaches that Usopp shot at her. Um, and Luffy picks up one and says, "Check it out, Bonnie, a giant stag beetle." Um, and so Vegapunk is like, "Hey, that makes sense that she wants to kill me." Um, and he's talking about the lightsaber, and he says, "It's ironic that one of my many failures saved me." Um, because he's like, if that lightsaber didn't attract bugs, like, she easily could have killed him. Um, so then he starts talking about a dragon in Wano that was kind of like Kaido, and he was like, uh, Luffy says, "Oh, you're talking about Momonosuke," and he says, "Yeah, I suppose he ate the defective fruit I left on Punk Hazard." And Luffy's like, "What what do you mean? And he's just like, I couldn't get it quite right, but he can still spit fire, and he's super strong. He's the guardian deity of Wano now. And Vegapunk says, and his color, and she said, and Luffy says pink. And Vegapunk says, you see another monumental failure, which is what we were all kind of assuming all along. And props to B.D.A. Law right off the bat, because B.D.A. Law got it absolutely right. The reason, not only did Momonosuke get his powers from a smile fruit, technically an artificial devil fruit, but Vegapunk saw it as a failure because of the color of the dragon. So Jinbei says, I get it, he's a genius and a perfectionist. So then they start talking about the robot, and Vegapunk says, or they think that he built it. Vegapunk says, no, this is the legendary Iron Giant that attacked the Holy Land of Marijois about 200 years ago. And pretty much it attacked Marijois, but didn't do any damage because it ran out of power before it could really hurt anybody or destroy anything. But this robot was powerful enough to climb up the Grand Line, which, if you remember from like when the Straw Hats were just getting into the Grand Line, like the like they went up Reverse Mountain, like the what is it? The Red Line is pretty much a mountain, and Marijois is at the it is at the top of this like pretty much gigantic cliff face. And that's pretty much the reason that no one can really get up there or attack them, is because the Red Line is it's a giant cliff that like just encircles the entire world. Anyways, so yeah, none of them could tell where it came from or what it was trying to do. And the world government ordered its destruction, but the scientists of their time couldn't help their curiosity. So, excuse me. So, this Iron Giant attacked Marijois 200 years ago, but it was built over 900 years ago, which means this is something that comes from the Void Century, which is interesting. And they put it here to pass it down without the government's knowledge. He says, good job on finding this place. It should just look like another wall. And Luffy's like, Luffy and Chopper were just like, we just got lost and kind of just came here because we were old and senile. So apparently old people easily get lost in Vegapunk's laboratory, which makes sense. Anyways, so Shaka, logic, Vegapunk logic. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of better names for these things. So Vegapunk logic brings the rest of Straw Hats, shows them where Luffy and the others are, and explains about the robot to them. And Frankie says, you're saying this robot climbed the Grand Line, or climbed the Red Line, and Shaka says most likely. And he says, I created Vega Force 1 based on what I learned from it. So that giant robot that lifted up the ship probably about 8 to 10 chapters ago is the closest that to a replica of this robot that Vegapunk could come up with. So they see Juri Bonnie there, and so they say the way Vegapunk's head works is crazy, which is true. And Vegapunk says, I truly did a terrible thing to Bonnie. There's still something I have to give her. But Vegapunk talks to Luffy, which I mean this part really hits me because Vegapunk kind of feels like, I don't know, Vegapunk kind of feels like Oda putting himself into the story. Because Vegapunk really is the guy who's explaining everything. Who's like revealing every secret, and so Vegapunk feels like Oda putting himself into the story, and so that panel right there, where you're seeing it from the back of Vegapunk's perspective, it feels like Oda talking to his own creation, like Oda talking to his son or something like that. That just hits really hard. Um, anyways, he says it feels like fate that like fate brought you here today, Straw Hat Luffy. Please, can you take me away from Egghead? So we finally get to the theme of the arc. It's funny because we are used to arcs where we are saving a princess, but this time we're saving a really, really smart old man. Um, so, uh, yeah. So it kind of leads to the question: is Vegapunk going to become a Straw Hat? I doubt it. But this is definitely going to be an arc where we are trying to save. Straw Hats are going to try to save Vegapunk from the world government. Which means they're going to get in even more trouble with the world government. The next panel will give you submechanophobia, which, if you don't know what that is, it is a fear of broken animatronics or mechanical things underwater. Yeah, that's gonna give me nightmares for quite a while. So, anyways, Cypher Paul Zero, headed by Rob Lucci, is heading into Egghead Port and easily destroying the mechanical sea beasts that are guarding it. And he says, Jewelry Bonnie was spotted making her way here too, and she keeps getting away. So next time you see her, we will terminate her on sight. So CP0 is not only coming for Vegapunk, but also coming for Jewelry Bonnie. So we're kind of protecting two princesses this time. Uh, Pythagoras says, Shaka, there's a government ship, and what does CB0 want with us, and why did they bring Rob Lucci? And Lilith, who is the evil part of Vegapunk, says, hey, I think we should just hand these pirates over, because Lucci is an assassin, right? So Lilith is just easily the one to be like, yeah, we're gonna sacrifice you to save us. So all the Straw Hats start freaking out about Rob Lucci, and Robin has less of Robin has less of a reaction than I thought she would. But Sanji says, "Don't worry, Robin. I'll protect you no matter how many times he comes back." Then Vegapunk says, "Tell them to hand over the Seraphim and leave. We're declining the request to dock. I doubt agents of the world government will respond well to that. So prepare for battle." Um, so, pretty much all of Egghead Island is gearing up to fight against CB0. And honestly, I don't think CB0 has a chance. They are up against the smartest man in the world, all of his inventions, all of his creations on his home turf, and the Straw Hats, whose captain just beat an Emperor of the Sea pretty much by him. Well, no, straight up by himself beat an Emperor of the Sea. CP0 does not stand a chance. Rob Lucci going to take the L for the second time. And I'm excited to see it. So, end of this chapter, we flash over to the Kamabaka Kingdom in the Grand Line. This is of course, the home of Emperor Ivankov and the base of, I'm so sorry, and the base of the Revolutionary Army. So, I can't remember what this cat guy's looking name or what his name is, but he's like, Kuma-san, we're trying to repair you. So Kuma is getting up and starting to go somewhere, and this is a really nice shot we get here because we get to see Inazuma, we get to see Koala, pretty much all the under agents of the Revolutionary Army. And they're like, is he still being controlled by the Navy? And so Kuma starts running in a certain direction, and Koala says, you're in no state to be moving like that, you're still not yourself. Everybody's like, Dragon, come here. Like, Kuma is freaking out, and I love Dragon's expression here because Dragon is so stone-faced all the time, and to actually see Dragon having this expression, but he's like, talk to us, Kuma, where do you want to go so bad? And even Cobb says, stay with us, we are not done fighting, the Revolutionary Army is just getting started. And so yeah, I really love this last panel here. Just the three leaders of the Revolutionary Army, Dragon, Kuma, and Ivankov, all together in this panel. And then also we get like a color spread at the bottom of just the beginning of the chapter. And it's rare that we get a color spread of the cover page, so that is very, very cool. But so Kuma's trying to run off, and nobody knows where he's going, but we know where he's going. He can tell, he knows that Cypher Paul Zero is going after his daughter. He knows his daughter's in trouble. He straight up knows that his daughter's in trouble, and he is trying to go save her. So that's really cool there. But what isn't cool is there is a break next week from One Piece. So we always say, Oda, you are the best. Get your rest. That was a rhyme. Anyways, so yeah, we're on break next week, so there will be no review of the next chapter next week, but the week after, which I believe will be so I believe next Friday is the day next Friday is Black Friday, which makes sense that there's no chapter next week. Well, also because it's Thanksgiving, and I mean, I know Oda's in Japan, but I believe like every nation does something for Thanksgiving, something like that. I don't know. But anyways, it just makes sense that the holidays coming up that Oda takes some time off. But that actually fits in well because next Thursday, which is when the chapter would be released, is Thanksgiving. Next Friday is Black Friday. Stuff like that. So there will be no chapter next week. But the week after, which I believe is going to be the beginning of December, we will get back into it with chapter 1068. Can you believe we are 67, almost 68 chapters in or past chapter 1000 of One Piece? Like we're heading straight for 1100 here soon, which is absolutely crazy. Considering other mangas, considering other mangas are much shorter. I mean, what was it? Naruto did 700 chapters, and honestly, in 300 more chapters, Oda will have doubled Naruto's runtime. So very, very impressed. I'm pretty sure, like, the English dub of the anime, like, once the manga ends of One Piece, I'm pretty sure the English dub anime will probably keep going for another good 20 years at least. Like, I'm pretty sure that the phenomenon of One Piece is gonna span probably a good 3 to 5 generations in its lifetime, because I believe that recently it had its 25th anniversary, and it's almost to its 30th anniversary. Um, so yeah, we're getting real close to about 2 generations of One Piece fans here, which is really cool. Anyways, that is my review of One Piece chapter 1067. Make sure to check out my AMVs, my nerdcore stuff. We are gonna have some merch concerning nerdcore coming out soon. So that's gonna be new merch coming out. Anyways, stay tuned for the next piece of One Piece. To be continued.